How are you guys? It's Thursday, and so that's Reddit day. And I have overreacted a couple times this week. Surprise. And so we are going to read some other folks who may or may not be overreacting. But I just wanted to say a thank you to you guys again for being with me every week, whether you are here with me for Reddit or over on the other channel. I don't know why I feel out of breath. I think it's this weather change. Um, it got up to almost 70 here today. And it's supposed to be that way, I think, for the next few days. So I'm going to enjoy that. Hopefully get some stuff done in the yard tomorrow. Yeah, got other stuff coming up this weekend. Hey girl, you remembered. Yeah. So my apologies again for those of you that were watching on the other channel last night. Yeah, that story just hit me real hard. And no, because after lunch, I'm free. I don't have to go back out again. So I'm going to try to get some of those weeds pulled out of the garden and get it freshened up for this year. Figure out what needs to be repaired. But yeah, anyway, back to good tonight. Hopefully these stories are a little less whatever. It is Am I Overreacting? That's the subreddit we're reading tonight. I'm driving, you have no say. That's probably true. But anyway, yeah, so I picked a few for tonight. I don't know if we're going to go a full hour. And then when we are all done, we'll do, I don't know if we're going to do a set change or not. This is usually what I use for my background for the Hallowed Hearth. But that is at 9 o'clock tonight. And I may put a link in the description here so you guys can check that out. It's going to be really fun. It's just going to be me and Rachel tonight. And we are going to talk about Ostara, the first day of spring. Rachel's going to do a little spell for us. So it's going to be great. But back to why we are here tonight. Am I overreacting? So our first story comes to us from Dizzy Meal 1475. And it's called, Am I Overreacting for Cutting Off My Friend After Being Cut Out of Her Wedding? There's a bunch of text messages, so we'll see where those fall in the story. So let's start off by saying the wedding is a day before my birthday. I, 25 female, have been friends with A, late 20s female, for a long time. We went to college together and shared a dorm room together. Now, A would always kick me out of the room when her ex-boyfriend came to see her. Fine, no problem. But it became a problem when I nearly fell asleep in the common area, which we are not allowed to be in after quiet hours. So her and I talked about it, and we soon became friends. Okay. So we've already established that communication. Okay. Now, skip to sometime in 2024. A just got engaged and called me. She asked me to be her maid of honor. I, of course, say yes. So as time goes on, I help A plan everything bridal party related from the moment she got engaged. Now, skip to today, little less than exactly 6 months before her wedding. I get a text from A saying that they made some financial cuts and one of A's fiancés dropped out of the wedding. A's fiancés. I think that's supposed to say one of A's fiancé's groomsmen dropped out of the wedding. Okay. Since this happened, I was cut, and A's oldest BFF was going to be her only maid of honor. Maid of honor or bridesmaid? I'm not sure. Attached texts between me and A. Okay. So we'll read those here in a little bit. I asked her if I was cut out of the wedding as a whole or moved down to a bridesmaid. Her text was very vague. She said out of the wedding as a whole. When asked if I was invited, even invited to the wedding, she stated if I wanted to. She tried to blame it on me still being in school and living far away from her over 8 hours. That is kind of a distance. I was obviously upset about this, so I told her that the maid of honor curse must be real between us. She brushed me off, saying that she had a family thing at 7 and we would talk about it later. I told her that it was okay. I see where I stand in her life and not to contact me again. So am I overreacting? I need to see the text, but I think maybe. Maybe. I mean, if she had an even number of folks and somebody dropped out on the groom side, then she'd have an uneven number. So pairs wouldn't work. And if they were feeling a financial crunch, okay, I need to figure out why it was you specifically and not one of the other bridesmaids. Okay, so first text is from the bride, it looks like. Hey, I've been racking my brain and we had to make a really tough decision. Blank and I decided to condense the bridal party altogether because, as you know, this stuff isn't cheap. Okay. One more of Blank's guys had to drop out. One more? Ooh. So we decided to do pairs walking down the aisle. I also decided that Blank will be the only maid of honor. She lives the closest and she's been here helping me with everything. I'm really sorry if this upsets you. Please know this was not an easy decision to make. You could look at it this way. You'll be saving so much money. Okay, so she was asking the bridal party to pay for everything, but then says that she's kicking her out because of money. And I'm a little concerned about how many groomsmen have dropped out. So OP says, so am I a bridesmaid or am I just not in the wedding period? Bride says, not in the wedding period. We had to cut it down. So am I allowed to go to the wedding? If you want to. I don't like that if you want to. I don't like that. So you don't want me to come? I'm just wanting some clarification. Yes, I want you to come, but it's a very expensive trip. That's why I said it like that. I know you have school and everything, so I understand if you can't. Okay, but she was already going to be a bridesmaid, be a maid of honor. OP says, so the maid of honor curse is true for us, right? Bride says, not, wait, hold on. Bride says, what do you mean? OP says, just that it's sad I knew this was coming and I was getting kicked out of the wedding. You knew what was coming. That I was be kicked out of the wedding. Bride says, I have to meet my family for dinner at 7 in Altoona. We'll have to talk about this later. OP says, no, it's okay. I understand where I stand in your life. Please don't text me again. Have a good life. And that's where it ends. So, I don't know. I need more. So let's see what the comments say. Okay, so first comment says, you mentioned that you knew this was coming. Why? Was your friendship already in kind of a fragile place, or was she dropping hints? And comment reply to that says she replied in another post. Okay, so those girls just posted that she was taking 1 to 2 weeks to reply to the bride's text. 1 to 2 weeks as a maid of honor? Oh, no. Comment to that agrees with me. If you're one of the maids of honor and involved with wedding planning and decisions, taking weeks to reply isn't great. No, you're letting her know you don't have any interest in this. That's probably like she was probably trying to spare your feelings and not be like, you're a bad friend. I didn't pick one of my oldest and closest friends to be in my bridal party because of this. She is so slow to respond. Great person, but getting in contact with her is like pulling teeth. It seems petty, But I know this particular trait of hers would have slowed down the entire bridesmaid planning process. Yeah, they can't wait for you. Um, yeah, no, that's not okay. Um, Another comment. OP said further up and replies, God forbid I don't respond for a week or two. Yeah, no. No, okay. So this just sounds like your behaviors are coming back to bite you. So yeah, you are overreacting in that you have no idea what you've done to this poor girl. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not even sorry. We're being judgy on Thursdays. But yeah, if I'm a bride and I have a maid of honor that I have to constantly ask for a reply, you can't be in my wedding. You just can't, because I need to know what's happening. So, yeah. But yeah, it looks like da 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 da. Yeah. So I don't know. She didn't. Some people are picking up on the birthday thing. Um, yeah. Somebody found one of OP's comments. I ignored my maid of honor for weeks at a time. Did not purchase anything for the wedding. Did not contribute meaningful to planning because life happens. Bride didn't even call me to break the news, but generally speaking, she and I rarely speak on the phone. How dare she treat me so poorly? Ooh, you're overreacting big time and failed at holding yourself accountable. Yeah, yeah. She needed to have the people in her party that she knew were going to be there. And yeah, I'm sure it hurt your feelings, but you're going to have to, I mean, you got real crappy back. Just real crappy back. And I don't appreciate that. So, yep, you're overreacting. Sorry about you. Okay, so we have one and we have an update. So, am I overreacting? Update for my husband smashing my face into the cake. The first part of this is here with a link, so I recommend you read that before you read this. So we're going to read the original post. Okay. Everybody can still see and hear me. Yes, that is still running. Okay, perfect. Male 24, spent multiple hours. Okay. Says male. Spent multiple hours on my makeup, hair, and dress for the wedding. Me and my family paid for everything. My husband did nothing to help except for handing out invitations. My husband knew I don't like pranks at all. My husband knew I wanted the wedding to be fun. So we did vows and we got married. And I was so happy, I thought to myself, how could this day be bad? Never asked that. It's like, what could go wrong? Or saying, I'll be right back. No. So when we had cake, everyone agreed for me to have the first slice. Yeah. So before I got a slice, my husband shoved my face into the cake. Everyone was shocked, and I personally was holding back tears. Yeah, you shoved your face into anything. Keep your hands to yourself. And I ran off to our car and I drove home. When my husband got home, he started screaming at me and saying it was a joke. You're sensitive. Even though I was not mad about the prank. I was mad that he did the prank after he knew I hated them and knew I spent hours, about 6 to 8 hours, delicately working on my makeup, hair, and cake. So am I overreacting? So you did all that. You didn't buy the cake? You made the cake? Oh, you made the cake. Yeah. And you did your own hair and makeup? Okay. So let's find this update. And then we'll see what people say. So a week later, I was calm. Not fully at all, but I had sanity now. So we redid our wedding. This time his family paid for it, and I did nothing. He thought the idea was stupid, and personally, I did too, but I said, "You're going to give me the wedding day I deserve." Okay. Also, about the $600 cake his family wanted to pay. Wait, hold on. Then he said, "What about me?" And then I lost it because he already had his fun. Also, about the $600 cake, his family wanted to pay my family for it, but they didn't accept it, making them pay for the new cake for the second wedding. Okay. Okay. So they were going to reimburse for the cake. So they spent the exact amount, maybe a little more, a little less than me and my family did. We did vows and we were going to have cake, and then I shoved his face into it. Aha. Of course, he got mad at me. And I said, "Now you know how I felt." Of course, he left upset after I went home and asked him why he was upset. And he said this with a straight face: "That was not funny. I worked hard on myself for you." I know it sounds wrong, but he wasted the cake at our actual wedding. So I just wanted to follow along. I think you're both being a little childish because if the whole point of you having the second wedding was so that you could have what you call the day you deserve, then why not just take the chance for everything to be pretty and all of the pictures to be pretty? Just, they agreed to pay for a second wedding. A little note here for context for the last one. The bridesmaids and bridemen and groomsmen were all in shock. I think as I was leaving, one of the bridesmen went up to my husband and started arguing with him. I don't know. Top comment. All right. At this point, I feel more sorry for the people who had to clear 2 days for this and probably a third for the divorce. Also, the cake maker. Yeah. Yeah. This just seems. Somebody says, kind of hoping this is fake because holy effing hell, this is such stupid BS. It really is. You guys should not be married. I'm sorry. You had a chance. You could have just annulled it after the first one. You don't like pranks. He didn't listen. And your main thing was, let me throw this elaborate party that other people are going to pay for so I can get him back. That seems a bit much. The first was questionable, but murky enough to give them the benefit of the doubt. All doubt removed with the second post. Both were fakes. Yeah. I don't know. If it is, you guys are just gross. I just think so. Yeah. My parents would not have let me have a second wedding, regardless of who was paying for it. But we don't have any ages, so I think that's what is making people really think it's fake. Which just makes me sad that I read these cold and then they turn out to be ridiculous. Anyway, our next one. Am I overreacting for walking away when I'm angry instead of arguing? There are going to be a lot of divided opinions, responses, all kinds of stuff in the comments. I'm certain of it. All right. I've struggled with anger issues for as long as I can remember. I'm naturally short-tempered, and when I was younger, it caused me to hurt people I care about. Oh. It wasn't something I did maliciously. It was just how I reacted to things back then. How long ago was back then? Intermediate size 3539. This was just posted 10 days ago. Okay. When I got older, I started becoming more self-aware and realized how unhealthy my behavior was. For a long time, I genuinely thought I was a horrible person because of it. Therapy is still pretty taboo where I live, so instead, I tried to work on myself in other ways. Good, good. We love that. Over the years, I've pushed myself to develop habits like meditating, giving myself 10 minutes to cool down before reacting, and stepping away when I feel overwhelmed. See, I don't think so. There's a lot more to read, but I will never think that you are overreacting if you're like, look, I'm fired up and I need to just walk away for a second. But I think it's very important that you communicate that. I'm just not feeling it right now, and I'm not feeling like I can speak right now. So I just need a little 10 minutes, walk around. Yeah. In the beginning, I was basically faking calmness, but over time it actually started helping. Yeah. Habits. New habits. It took years, but my anger is mostly under control now compared to how I used to be. Good. We love growth. Love growth. The problem is that people close to me still treat me like the person I was years ago. They still call me hot-tempered based on how I used to be, even though I've worked really hard to change. Have you talked to them about that? Again, you really, especially if you're making such a big change, and I know people say, don't tell anybody because they're going to try to talk you out of it. They're going to tell you can't do it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But if you're actually starting to see a difference, and maybe not family members, but coworkers or something, if they're starting to see a difference, I think you can say that. I think you'd be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, I used to really get hot under the collar, didn't I? Yeah, well, calm down a little bit in my old age or something. I don't know. We'll just keep reading because I'm just going off on tangents. Another thing that keeps happening is when I feel anger building up, I try to stay quiet or remove myself from the situation because I know reacting in that moment could make things worse. When I'm extremely angry, it genuinely feels like my brain is going to explode. Like there's so much pressure in my head and chest that I might say something I regret. So instead of reacting, I try to step away and calm myself down. And sometimes the other person doesn't respect that. They'll keep pushing, provoking, or poking at me while I'm silent. Eventually I snap, and then that becomes proof to them that I'm still the same crazy or hot-tempered person. Okay, so you have somebody in your life specifically that is poking, as you say. Okay, I'm going to keep reading before I tell you what to do. It feels frustrating because I'm actively trying to manage my anger in a healthier way. But when I take space to calm down, people interpret it as weakness or guilt instead of self-control. I know my anger issues are my responsibility and I'm still working on them every day. But I also wish people would acknowledge that I've changed and respect my need for space when I'm trying not to react in the heat of the moment. So am I overreacting for expecting people to respect that boundary? Am I overreacting for wanting people to respect my space when I'm trying to control my anger? No. But again, I think you need to tell people, look, I am not feeling okay in this moment. Or however it feels most comfortable to you to say it. But just tell somebody, I'm getting a little frustrated. I'm going to take a walk. I do want to revisit this. Or, I don't know. I would probably encourage you to go to therapy regardless of the taboo of your neighborhood. You're wearing a stigma. You're wearing this label of this hot-headed, I don't know if you're a girl or a guy. But it sounds like, you're willing to do whatever. And as hard as it is, maybe you need to just remove yourself from those situations if you can. I understand in a work situation, it might be a little harder. You got to have to find another job, or you have to bring it up with HR. If this is a family thing, which it sounded to me a little bit like it was, you might have to just take the holidays off for a little bit. Especially if there is like one particular family member that loves to make you look like the crazy person. And whoever's hosting, you can have a private conversation with them. Just look, the last couple family get-togethers, I haven't really felt good about them when I've left, so I just need to take a couple of them off. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to make sure that my anger is not an issue anymore. And I have a hard time when I'm at family gatherings, and see how they react. I don't know. Top comment: you are not overreacting. What you are doing is perfectly reasonable and healthy and takes a good bit of maturity and understanding of yourself to do. Unfortunately, you are still fighting against that old reputation with people. Yeah, that's what I was saying. And for some reason, people like to poke and prod until the anger comes out and they can prove you haven't changed. If you are encountering this with people that you interact with fairly often and care about, you need to talk to them when you are completely calm. Yeah, don't do it in the heat of the moment, just when everybody's like, hey, Bob, what's new with you? Well, you know what? I had to take a real hard look at myself. And notice I do get angry real quick. So I'm trying to work on that. And then drop it if you can. Explain to them that you had a problem with your anger in the past and are actively working to get better at it. Tell them if you ever feel yourself getting angry, you may have to step away for 10 minutes. You aren't ignoring them. You are just managing your anger. Explain that if they choose to follow you and keep poking, it will only make things worse, and they are choosing to escalate the situation. Yeah, just put it right back in their hands. You can either be with me on this or you can be against me on this. And if it's against, well, that's just okay. Next comment: not overreacting. You're absolutely right that walking away is better than exploding. But the question is, are you walking away to come back and discuss it later, or are you just pretending it never happened? If it's the latter, it's still not great. The idea is to calm down and then come back and talk it out when you're calmer. If you are doing that, then already not overreacting. Yeah. I mean, everybody is pretty much saying, here's a different take on this. Maybe a different take. We'll see. Number one, the damage you did with your anger in these relationships may never fully heal. That's your cross to bear. I fully understand that anger can be hard to control, but for people around you, that is terrifying, disrespectful, and can be abusive. Terrifying, I agree with. Yeah, short fuses. Shoo. Yeah. Number two, if these are intimate people you interact with regularly, work to gain agreement with them for ground rules prior to fights when you're both calm. Develop a safe word and make sure you both agree and they understand the time away will be used to calm and communicate respectfully, not to ignore or dismiss their needs. Yeah. There's some stuff missing, and I don't know if you were afraid that it would like kind of identify who you are. But yeah, I mean, pretty much everybody else is saying, hey, good job. Just make sure that you are communicating with your folks. And, I'll say folks for everybody in your family. But yeah. Yeah, I don't think you're overreacting. I think maybe you're maybe a little scared to tell people you're working on yourself because, if they are not okay with therapy, meditation might not be something, but I don't know. There's just a lot that can be said with communication. I'm going to say that every week because I'm almost 50 and I've figured out, hey, people only know what I tell them. So, Okay, so this is my narc side. So just so you guys know. Am I overreacting? Why is it okay to body shame thin people? Um, this has not been much of a thing now, but I think anyway, read the story, Katie. This is about an ongoing issue. I'm female, over 50 years old, am told I look at least 10 years younger, tall and lean. My BMI is 18.5 and healthy. I've always been this way. I did do some modeling in my younger years. I don't diet and I don't work out, although I'm active walking and gardening. My entire life, I've been bullied and ridiculed for being thin. Until I was over 30, I was thinner than I am now, but I ate like a football player. I've been called stick, stretch, bones, and names like that. I've been accused of being anorexic even recently. One guy signed my yearbook to the girl who always looks like a zipper when she sticks out her tongue. Even at my age, I get comments on my weight. And if I can't eat all of a gigantic restaurant portion, everybody comments on it. I also know very thin people who have medical conditions that keep their weight down. And I've witnessed people who were overweight and lost weight be told, "You're losing too much weight," when they're not. I got frustrated and posted about this on Facebook, pointing out that body shaming fat people will get you called out, rightfully so, but it's okay to ridicule and insult thin people, comment on their weight, and say things like, "What size jeans do you wear? A -1?" I got a lot of supportive comments. A few days later, we had a girls' lunch, and one of the women who commented empathetically said, "I know you get tired of people talking about your weight, but you really are ridiculously thin." I bit my tongue but glared at her. Everybody else looked uncomfortable. I'm sick of it. I would never ever comment on an overweight person's size or what they eat. I know obese people get stared at and have rude comments made to them, and society generally condemns that practice. But it's okay to make fun of thin people. Thoughts? Yeah. Okay. So I am relatively thin. And I'm not the thinnest of my friends. Um, but yeah, I don't eat well. I don't diet. I rarely exercise. My genetics are just such that I have a 5'9", but pretty thin. That little the chicken bone. But see, there you go, little chicken bone wrists. Snap them like a twig. Um, just just as an overarching rule of thumb, don't make fun of anyone's size, no matter what their size is. There are things you can change about yourself. There are things you cannot change about yourself. Things that you cannot change are off limits. Just off limits. I can't change my face. I mean, I can change my face, but I'm not spending that kind of money to change my face. I can't change how tall I am. I can't get shorter. I, at this point, would have to eat full meals probably 7 times a day to pack on weight. I'm not going to do that. So anyway, you're not overreacting if somebody says something about your weight and you call them out. You're just not. You're allowed to say, that is not an appropriate topic. I'm not going to discuss it with you. But anyway, so I think we'll do one more. Sorry, these haven't been as fun as I was hoping they would be. But I picked the title, so I guess that's on me. So I need you guys to find me stuff. Do I have one more? No, I'm not going to do that one. let's do like a Russian roulette kind of thing, and we're just gonna Oh, okay. So this is a repost. And just because I could never do this, I could never even write about having thought about it and try to get people's opinion about whether or not I'm overreacting. Repost. Am I overreacting for wanting to burn his stuff? Well, let's find out, shall we? Oh, goodness. Okay. So let's start with the text messages because she put them first. Hope you're healing. Hope you're healing way. Just saying I have 2 pairs of boxers, 2 pairs of pants, 2 pairs of shorts to last me 2 weeks straight. Be really helpful if you could bring me my clothes as soon as you can drive again. Not cool that this was the prep you decided to do with the whole I didn't have time excuse. Because when you were walking around your house making snaps on Snapchat, you could have been getting my clothes. I'm pretty annoyed taking a shower to wear the same clothes again the 7th day in a row. Dude! Oh. Okay. Sorry to wake you up with this. And if reading this messages feels like an inconvenience, consider I have no clothes right now. Okay, I was hesitant on this, but I'm going to date someone new. You're disrespectful and lazy as F. Wait, you got no clothes. You got no clothes. How you going to date? Okay. So OP finally texts back and says, I'm not here to argue with you. I was in the hospital. Boyfriend, ex. I don't give a F. OP, I will happily get your clothes. X says, you hate your mom and put that into me. What the heck? What does that have to do with anything? Oh my goodness. Okay. OP says, I can literally barely move. I have an 8-inch incision. X says, annoying and disrespectful. That has nothing to do with the conversation, you effing excuse maker. What? What? OP says, I'm sorry you haven't had clothes. I can imagine this must be very difficult. I will have my mom help me and I will gather up as much stuff as I can. When will you be here to come get it? And then he goes back and replies to a text earlier. I don't give a F. 2 had 4 days before the hospital to do all this. Why didn't you? OP says, I was working doubles to have money to last me through my surgery. Girl, you don't have to. Mm-mm. X says, your mom will not touch any of my S. And OP says, and I brought you as much stuff as I could before. X says, when are you going to be healed up? And then, no, you did not. Back to, I brought you as much stuff. You played on Snapchat and made effing posts. Even when we're broken up, you make excuses for Poopy instead of apologize for Poopy. OP says, I brought you the plant, your interface, mic, deodorant, jewelry, clothes, and snow pants and jackets and shoes. X says, okay, thanks. Okay, thanks? OP says, like I said, I brought as much as I could before. And 2 shirts. No, you did not. You brought as much as you chose to bring. Every has 24 hours in a day. Oh my God, stop talking to this person. You broken up. I don't want to keep reading the text because I don't know how many there are. But oh my God, good grief. Okay. OP says, I will happily get as much of your stuff gathered up as I'm physically able to. X says, don't do it now. Don't do it now? What? Do you have clothes? Did you go shopping in the last 20 minutes while you're texting? Okay. Oh, he says, I'm not arguing with you about this. I need to focus on myself right now. Just let me know when you'll be here to get her, to get it. X says, ain't no argument. Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is just back and forth. Okay. So okay. Yeah. It just, there's a lot of projection, a lot of back and forth, and just him being nasty. Okay. So her actual post. He, 31 male, broke up with me, 30 female, 4 days before I had a major surgery, which was this past Monday. He was living with me for 2 years, and when he walked out, chose not to take any of his things with him, of course. Then it's yours. He moved out, and then it's your stuff. He lives about an hour away, so on the last few days before my surgery, I tried to bring him as much of his stuff as I physically could on my way to work, which was, wait, how far away do you work? Okay, so those texts, I'm assuming, are real. Okay. I'm trying to figure out why you drove to take him his stuff. I would have just put it out on the front lawn or on the front porch or in bags or something and said, your stuff is outside. He also demanded I bring him a large potted plant on one of the days. He could have asked me to bring him clothes instead. He also never helped me carry anything, and I was very physically limited in what I could do at that time. I shouldn't have even been working, but I desperately needed the money as I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on sales education courses for him, which he refuses to reimburse me for. That's all besides the point, though. I've been home from the hospital less than 24 hours. I had to stay longer than expected and have okay. I don't know if this is real. I don't know how you make up texts. You can call me Nana now. This doesn't seem real. Just doesn't. Okay. But hey, I'm still alive. All of this he knows too. So he called me about 20 minutes ago, livid that I hadn't responded to his messages from this morning. I genuinely didn't see them, and no, his notifications aren't silenced. I just said that because he's pissing me off. I hung up the phone because I could physically feel my heart rate spiking, and all this stress is just not good for my healing process. Attached are the messages that ensued after I hung up on him. Am I overreacting for wanting to burn his stuff? I'm not actually going to. I don't want any reason for this to be drawn out any longer. Just want him out of my life and to heal. But am I an a-hole for being tempted to? No, you're not an a-hole for being tempted to, but call 2 friends. Can y'all help me put this in garbage bags and put it out on the front door? He's coming by. Yeah, I think you're just letting him have too much over you right now, my darling. What were your guys' ages? 31 and you're 30. Yeah, you guys need to know. It's a good thing y'all broke up. I don't know why you broke up, but it doesn't, I don't know. In the text, he accuses her of cheating or whatnot. She says, P.S. Also, I didn't cheat on him. I let my coworker use my car charger to charge his phone one time, and he considers that cheating. Dude is absolutely unhinged. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think you are. The fact that you're even reacting at all, just put it outside. Yeah, I wouldn't want him back in my house, but he's not entitled to really anything if he left. I don't know what state you live in, so maybe he is. But everybody kind of agrees with me in the comments. No, he's the jerk. You are fine. You're still a little naive for 30, but hopefully this has opened your eyes a little bit. But yeah, I mean, once it's in bags, just send him a text of a picture of his stuff that says it's all together. See you in an hour, or please don't knock on my door. Everything's outside. I don't know. So we are going to leave that at that for tonight. Sorry, guys, that was probably not our best night. But anyway, tomorrow's the first day of spring. Tomorrow's the first day of spring. Yay. So get outside, touch some grass, plant something. Even if it's just a new plant to have in your office or in your house. Plant something with the intention of things growing. And we need to check and see if we are all done with frosts before I plant anything that has to go outside. But I do have a daisy in a pot that I need to plant. So maybe we'll do that tomorrow. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Do the YouTube stuffs, please. Like, share, subscribe. Share. That's my biggest. Subscribe first and then share. Let everybody know we're hanging out. And let me know what other subreddits you guys want to get into. There's a ton of them out there. So please let me know your favorites. And I'll see you guys next week. So thank you again for hanging out. Bye.